Well, good morning, guys. Let's see, what do we got today? Catch up on some news for the week, right? Let's see. We're up. We're good. Mic's on. Good, good. Beautiful. Rogan calls out AOC for bashing millionaires. I don't know. Has anything changed since I last looked? I've been working, so I don't know. It's like working on other stuff and you come back to this. It's like, yep, Israel, Iran, yep, Trump's going crazy. He's not going crazy. He's going crazy. He's not going crazy. You hear everything. You hear every theory under the sun now. So I don't know what's what. I just kind of, if when things are so shaky like that, I just kind of tune out. I'm just like, if nobody seems to be telling the truth, then I don't know.
Joe
Let's get
Rogan
into
called
it.
out Democratic socialists like AOC for their campaign against billionaires.
The podcaster was speaking with venture capitalist Mark
Lindsay is loud today. Hold on. I feel like I don't know how loud that is through the speaker, but I think that's about right. I'm still learning.
Andreessen, who, according to Forbes, has a net worth in the billions. Rogan was highly critical of those who claim that wealthy Americans don't pay their fair share in taxes. Here's what he said.
This idea that it's easy to become a billionaire and that these billionaires somehow or another are the problem because they're not paying their fair share is so weird that's a narrative that actually gets pushed through when you look at the actual numbers of the tax base and how much they contribute and how many jobs they provide. And
Rogan also brought up Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who recently claimed that it's impossible to earn $1 billion without breaking rules and abusing power. And Rogan wonders why this narrative seems to become more prevalent. Take a look.
I'd have to really think about that because I see what she's going for, but are you sure? Because somebody like Elon making as much money, I don't know. He's very rich. I get it. I get the argument, but at the same time, he's running like space programs and stuff. So, and it's not like he has that money in his pocket. I think that's where people misunderstand the stuff. It's like, no, it's in assets and stuff. It's in businesses and it's tied up in other things.
failing of our education system? Is that a failing of the media explaining things to people in a way that makes sense? Or is it just that people feel so helpless that they're making, just enough barely to get by, and they're living check to check, and they see these people in yachts and they see these people in private jets, and they say, they must have stolen this.
Yeah, Joe Rogan saying a lot of things I obviously agree with and points I've made on Rising as of late. AOC.
I guess, yeah, that's if you're looking at it like that, if it's only like that's the only way they could have gotten that. It's like it's completely unethical no matter what. Then I don't know. I don't know if I would go that far.
It's just, I don't see how anyone can say she's anything but factually incorrect on this. Obviously, there are people who have made billions of dollars without.
Oh, what up, buddy?
In the entertainment
Welcome back.
industry and the music. Taylor Swift, J.K. Rowling, they just created something that
How's the
other
morning
people
going?
value at that amount of money, and so they have that amount of money. AOC just totally missed that. The kinds of people she was calling out were tech-type people, Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, Bezos, those kinds of people who she thinks are cheating. I would say they have created something that people evaluate at that level of money, and I'm sure there are some regulatory policies or tax policies that
good to see you too, bro.
I would change as well. But the idea that broadly speaking you can't accumulate that wealth except through plunder is.
I'm gonna get to other stuff later. B-Day was good. B-Day was good. I actually just went to Dave & Buster's. Never been. It was actually kind of a goofy time going to an arcade as an adult, but it was like, hey, it was actually a lot of fun. But yeah, we're gonna get to some body cam videos a little bit later because it's Body Cam Friday. Missed last Friday. But also there is one Sean Ryan episode I'm gonna hope to get to if I have enough time today.
Is false, and I'm glad Joe Rogan is calling it out because I think it's not a good. It's a conspiratorial mindset to think everyone doing so well must have cheated somehow, and because the solution to that, AOC's solution, is to confiscate it or to make it impossible to gather that amount of wealth.
Well, look,
And that would
you
be
know
bad.
that I am against the billionaires tax in California. You know that I think Mamdani is trying his best to come up with ideas in New York and tax people who aren't even using their homes, which I think is a little bit different than just taxing random billionaire business owners in California. So I think
I'm back and forth on that one. I really don't know what to think of Mom Donnie doing that. It's like it's kind of dickish, but at the same time, like, man, if you just got a house here and you're just never here, what are we doing?
that part of Joe
I
Rogan
don't know if that's the right solution. I'm sure there's some blind spots there, but
sentiments, I understand. When we talk about what AOC said and what I took it as listening to a larger part of the conversation is that most of these billion-dollar companies that are created by one person that then expands their team, by the point they get to the billionaire status, are doing that on the backs of people both here and internationally. Internationally, it's the biggest issue because, for example, throughout the entire tech sector, and Joe Rogan is so surprising to me because he talks about this on his show specifically. He talks about the use of cobalt. He talks about the use of coltan. These are huge materials that are necessary to operate most of the tech, the Samsung, the iPhone, everything that you use right now, your computer. These are minerals that are mined for. This is the reason for the entire war in the Congo, is that people are killing each other to get these materials to Apple and to other outlets like Samsung to use. So without that killing and that war happening to get the materials, these phones don't get made in the capacity and magnitude that they're made. Without the coltan, we're not able, people are mining, children as young as 6 years old are mining for this material and dying sometimes because there's no protections in this specific mining. And you argue that these people are better off for having a job with a 6-year-old dying. And so people
honestly, and she's got Robbie on that. That's where libertarianism goes too far. It's because it's like, well, you know, hey, do whatever you want as long as it's not harming anybody. And it's like they don't really define what harm is.
look at, no, it's not true.
It's like, yeah, child labor, probably harmful.
People are dying 6-year-old putting in mines with no protections is not better off. And so it's just that they have been advantage of it. And another industry, if you don't want to just talk about the tech people, is fast fashion. When we talk about the children laborers that are working for fast fashion, when we talk about the 14 to 16 hour shifts that they're doing, which is even against country norms and standards, is because they're forced into that type of work. So if you can't understand a war starting in order for us to use a technology, if you can't relate that to
let me address these points because they're false.
What's false about that?
I know how this sounds, and I know
Shut up,
it sounds
Lindsay.
heartless. But the labor conditions for the people you're talking about, which are
Which ones? Be specific. Are you talking about fashion or are you talking about the tech mining for the minerals?
Both of them.
Okay.
The labor conditions sound appalling to us, and they are. They are still an improvement on what was available before that, which is the children just starve, or they're child soldiers, or they're
But that's pretty vague, though. Like,
child prostitutes. The improvement on that is the backbreaking mining or manufacturing. That it's awful, but it's an improvement. Just as like the jobs that illegal immigrants come to America to do in farming or just cleaning things, and we're like, and they're happy to have them because they have no opportunity before they come here. It's an improvement. Everyone wants to improve on their situation, and then eventually you improve further. So once the economy develops enough, the place starts to modernize, then you get restrictions on that kind of, you get nicer conditions, you get that kind of thing. But you can't just short circuit that process, unfortunately. I wish there was some easy, quick trick to make Congo a modern democracy where people can have nice office jobs, but there's no shortcut to
that's
this.
fair. Yeah.
And if you just shut that all down, you get that shut down, the children all starve to death in the streets. We don't want that.
No, it's the same thing that happened with the diamond industry. You start to have integrity in your mining. And so therefore you don't have blood diamonds anymore. So there are ways, we've seen this with other industries. I want to talk about the fashion. Garment workers, specifically Bangladesh, Cambodia, Indonesia, they face wages that are so low and work 14-hour shifts is not an option. They're trapped in poverty with less than 2% making a living wage in the entire country. That is not what people are looking
Reminds me of Zoolander.
for. Specifically for these miners that I'm talking about, for the cobalt. These are hand-dug tunnels. These are children with hand-dug tunnels and no safety equipment that are 6 years old starting this job to mine for things that make our phone work, that billionaire companies are benefiting from, but not trying to assist in fixing the situation
Please go to Bangladesh and say, Don't worry, everyone. We're shutting down all the factories.
Who said
you don't have
shutting
any
it down?
You don't have any jobs anymore. Congratulations.
No,
You're welcome.
The point is that
You're welcome.
you're
I've
not listening to the
liberated
point.
you
The
from the
companies
job.
are trying to keep the iPhones and things at the cost that they are, and so they're trying to. That's taking precedent over lives in Bangladesh. And so, in order, they need to figure out either bringing the cost down some other way or go over there and provide more funding so people can actually work. But the companies don't care about human beings that live in other countries that make their whole entire circuit work for these companies. Like, they can't work without the cobalt. The iPhones can't work. And so they're not willing to do anything to try to rectify the situation. They just prefer 6-year-olds to die as they mine for this. They prefer for the Congo War to go on because they know the value of this material. They prefer.
It's a good debate, honestly. It's like, are we really ready to give up all of our cell phones and stuff like that for to end this sort of thing, child labor? My guess is most Americans will not give up shit.
For child laborers to work in these factories 14.
Because at the end of the day, who really cares? All these activists that are screaming, it's like, we have to stop this. Do they really care? Are they going to give up their phone? No.
To 16 hours a day, making 2% of a livable wage anyway, because they don't want to contribute to that anyway, which is why people have been boycotting fast fashion. It hasn't come down to the iPhone because it's too convenient. But if you hold these billionaires to account, perhaps there'll be some change.
Yeah.
They don't have to use this material in their
It's
phone.
like,
They can
let's
find
be
another
adults.
material.
Let's be realistic
live
about
in
the
an age
situation.
where technology is the greatest achievement of this generation, and even the generation before. As we continue to advance, they can't find any other material to use or another way to make the phone, or they can go figure out a way to pay these people properly and not make it so that the conditions are so harsh and unmonitored that people are killing one another over getting the material to Apple and mega tech companies so they can keep producing at a rapid pace.
I think your plan is one that will make all those people worse off. To use some other resource, that's the only benefit they have in the Congo, is that they have that resource.
Okay,
and we
well,
need it.
then government should intervene. Our government should
Government
have
of
conversation.
Congo?
No, President Trump speaks to the governments globally.
They're corrupt.
And so he should
There's
figure out how to have
corruption,
communication.
and it's a mess. And the only way it's ever going to get better.
And we should
is
not,
to have a
Congo?
billionaires in the
slight
U.S. should
improvement
not
in living
continue to
standards.
benefit off of this kind of stuff. So when AOC points that out, that's somebody that cares about lives over products. And so that's the distinguishing
He's not
difference.
caring about lives.
And Joe
to
Rogan
say they
cares
should
about
lose
this
those
too,
jobs.
because you can watch
I mean,
a whole
this is such a
episode. You can
slight
watch a
point,
whole
but-
episode on Joe Rogan talking about cobalt. Just Google Joe Rogan cobalt on YouTube, and you'll hear him making this exact argument. So then he can't say that he doesn't understand how AOC is saying that these billionaires are cheating.
But I'm
because they're
pointing out why
cheating
this
the
argument
system.
is wrong. Like, you can't expect the Congo to have labor treatment standards of a modern industrialized first world country.
If the material is
just
less
not gonna
valuable, then the
happen.
fighting stops. It's the same thing that diamonds. We saw that happen. Kids used to mine for diamonds and die in these mines. Now there are restrictions to make mining more ethically sourced. That's just the name of the game. There was a huge war over these same diamonds. Now the industry has largely changed. I know because I did a documentary in South Africa. I understand
think
how
she's right,
we've come
honestly.
from apartheid to now. It can happen. And because
Like,
the
you
U.S.
can
government
change it,
largely got
but-
involved with the end of apartheid in South Africa. And so we can get
Oh,
involved
so
in
now we're
other...
getting involved. Now we're what? We're
You
sending
don't-
troops.
We never sent
What are
troops
we
to South
doing?
Africa, did we? Do you remember that in the history books?
No, but
I
I'm
do.
We
sure
have
we're
not.
funding
Exactly. So we
them.
got involved through conversation, and we didn't put profit over people. And so that's what I'm suggesting that we do instead of just criticize AOC, who's
No, I
suggesting
totally
there's a
disagree.
problem here.
I don't think we should get overly involved. I think we should trade with other countries and leave them to govern their affairs
and allow them to
they
kill each
tend
other
to
so
get-
that we can have technology. And allow billionaires to make money off of it, even though they could afford to try to pay these people less than 10 cents an hour.
I know if we don't require their resources, they will not be any better off. They'll be worse off than they will be.
Well, we can
poverty
figure out a way
stricken
to
and-
organize it in the same way as we did the diamond industry, which globally affected everyone that buys diamonds, from India to the U.S. to South Africa to Africa as a continent. We figured it out.
Okay. Got a lot more to talk about on Rising. Please stay with us.
Yeah, I don't have a good answer to that one. Yeah, apparently a UAP shot down by F-16 and new UFO filed up. I just heard about this morning. I was like, all right, let's jump into this one. This is something I'm a little more excited for. That last one, I'm like, I even closed a bunch that I was like, I just have no interest in this shit. Because like I said, it's the same story you hear every day. It's like Iran, Trump crazy, Trump this, Trump that. And I just like, everybody's got an opinion. I'm like, I don't care anymore. I just don't care. I want to know what's going on with UFOs and shit. Doesn't work like that, then you would have to do changes absolutely to everything. Yeah, yeah. You would honestly, you would, because if I think if you're talking about the cobalt mining, because yeah, if you were to change that, then you're just like, well, there's a bunch of these other things that are basically the same thing, like child labor laws and stuff around the world. So we have to go after that. But that's the thing about activists, though. They always pick one thing, and it's like, but what about this other thing that's happening right now in front of your eyes? Oh, well, my group's telling me I got to care about this, so maybe we'll get to that. I have to consult with them first. You think coffee farmers are paid fairly? But shit, we got to have our coffee. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I doubt it. But man, would I give up coffee? No. That's like the one vice I don't know if I can give up. I'm trying to work on everything else, but man, coffee, ugh. Huh. And I know caffeine it's just another substance. It really is. And it is an addiction, but that's a tough one for me.
Breaking this morning, the second batch of UFO files has been released by the Pentagon. One of the videos gaining traction reportedly shows an F-16
Who is
shooting
that?
down an
Who is that guy? That wasn't Robbie.
unidentified object over Lake Huron back in 2023.
This is just one of various files released on Friday. These
What the
files are
fuck?
being released. This is just
An unidentified the videos gaining traction reportedly shows an F-16 shooting down an unidentified object over Lake Huron back in 2023.
this is just one of various files released on Friday. These files
looked
are
like
being
it blew
released
up.
on a rolling basis after President Trump's promise to declassify certain government files dealing with UFOs. So, also
I'm like
known as
stuck.
USB. Yeah. So while I was
That
reading
was-
that, you got to
That was a lot more than I thought we were gonna see.
watch the video. What do you just?
So there was some unidentified object. Look, let's watch it again. Unidentified object.
Oh, it's one of those squiddies. Because I've been following this for a little bit, and like there's different styles of ones, and like there's like a squiddy looking one where it's got like it's almost like a jellyfish, and it's got tentacles at the bottom, and it's like I've seen a few of those videos. I can't tell what is AI and what isn't anymore, but I've seen those videos, and apparently it's common. It's like one of because they have different types of UFOs, and that's just one of the categories is the squids.
Chilling.
They don't always look exactly the same, but yeah.
And all of a sudden you see, obviously, look at the thing. It just got shut down.
that. Why did it explode like that? Why did it have a tail? That was very
Yeah, that was a lot of explosion.
strange. That looked like
That's
a balloon.
Right. I don't know. And the balloons don't do all that. Balloons don't go into that many pieces. So, we had Avi Loeb on the other day
Wow.
from Harvard, and he kind of broke down that
That
as
one's
the
heavy.
batches of files get released, we'll see more and more interesting information come out, because the first batch was interesting, but obviously we didn't see any little green men, and I don't know if we will in any of these batches that are released. But he explained that these were the easiest files to release without a lot of combing through. And as you get to more videos and more specifics, you probably have more people that need to make sure that they're okay for release. And so you'll see that we'll get more and more information as we go on. So I am like almost frightened to see what will come, because that first batch, we talked about what freaked us out the most or caused concern. Ours are different. Mine was the image that was a rendering of what several corroborated witnesses said they saw in some field. That looks absurd to me, because if a bunch of people corroborate seeing some silver circle oval thing floating around very close to the ground, you're gonna have to break that down for me what that is. I don't want to hear that it was some random government test of drones that was supposed to be going on as scheduled.
Swamp
I
gas.
need to know what that was.
Swamp
what was
gas.
yours?
Yep.
So I was most captivated by one of the photos from the first moon landing, 1977? Or I might be getting the year wrong. But the first moon landing and the egg-like shape beyond the moon that they photographed from that landing. So there was just these strange lights in the distance, which were not certain stars that we know about, were not the other planets, and something that was shaped like an egg off in the far distance. I have questions. Why was this classified for so long in the first place? Why are we just now seeing this quite awesome picture from the first moon landing in the 60s? Excuse me. So that for me was the main thing I was focused on. I don't know what to make of videos that I see like that. The government probably knows what that was that they shot down,
Right.
and I can't discern what it is. It's just a black shape. It looks like a balloon.
Well, you know, Avi Loeb was explaining that as we release more files, he thinks that the videos will also become clearer, and so we
Just
won't have,
Stephen
you know,
Colbert
we'll
at
have
the
more
end there.
distinct. Like we're watching now could be anything,
That's
right?
what disclosure people say, is that they're
Oh, man.
slow rolling all of the information to ease us into full disclosure, which, by the way,
Side note with Stephen Colbert, like hearing that he took over some of the writing for Lord of the Rings, the new Lord of the Rings coming out. I was like, fuck, man. Everything is getting destroyed. Like Animal Farm, I don't know if you saw what happened to that, but they just completely twisted that story. Now it's not even about communism. It's like, you motherfuckers. I swear to God. I like, that's like, you can mess with a lot of things, but that's one of those, like, you're messing with like scripture basically. And they know damn well what they're doing. Like they know what they're doing. That's the thing. Even if they got like fucking idiots like Seth Rogen to be the peon, to be the foot soldier, to do this sort of thing, it's like I don't even know. I doubt he's too stupid to really know what's going on. But like, yeah, them changing Animal Farm really got me. And watch, they're gonna do it to 1984. They're probably gonna do the same thing.
can't wait for the Steven Spielberg movie this summer on disclosure.
Yeah,
But
it's
that
they're rewriting history. That's what they do. They it's revisionist history. They do that with everything.
seems to me what we are seeing is a very slow preparing of the public for what we're going to learn about life beyond Earth, which I just won't be surprised at all. I happen to believe in extraterrestrial life. I do not think we're alone in the universe. So I just wish we could fast forward to explaining to us where we're situated in relation to other life.
Because I think that and I agree with you. I think that we're grown enough, the adults of America and of the globe, to accept information. We've seen enough movies where they say if they mention something, the world freaks out, and now everything. I mean, we've been through the pandemic. That was pretty odd. Odd times where we kind of everything shut down. We stayed in the house. I don't know if we're gonna have even that happen. And so if people just have information, maybe they'll be armed with understanding what all exists in the universe, and there could be less speculation where you have people and you have questions come up every time an incident happens, like the missing scientist. Like maybe we'll have more answers to questions, and everything won't be tied to unidentified object, alien. Like just break it down for us, because being secretive and being part of the government is not a good mesh. It's why America's distrust of government institutions is so high.
Yeah, I think probably the area where I am the most confused or uncertain about the alien claim is that it does require, again, a grand level of conspiracy and cooperation, not just between Americans who know stuff that you and I don't, but world governments.
Right.
It requires cooperation between Beijing and Moscow and DC not to disclose to the
I
public the
don't
things
know.
that they know.
Is that so far fetched? Because I mean, we have laws of war. You can't break certain. You can actually have war crimes and shit like that. So that already is kind of weird. Plus Antarctica. Don't we have like some sort of treaty over Antarctica, like a global treaty, being like, okay, nobody fuck with this continent. I think I don't know like all the details or the backstory to that, but I'm pretty sure that's the case.
They have their own self-interest, which means that all of these world governments have a handshake agreement to do this in cooperation, which I'm just not certain is real. Like I'm not certain such an agreement exists.
Yeah, that would be very, very diplomatic of them.
Oh, just completely cut her off. Yes. So that is the case. Gotcha. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like Antarctica, I'm like, we can't do war over it. I know that. I know you can't fly over certain areas. There is no fly zones, and there's just like a lot of test sites over there. A lot of like weird bunkers and shit. End of the world type stuff. Oh, okay, yeah. This is good shit. So the Nick Shirley stuff came back, and people are getting arrested now. Yesterday, I saw a few people get arrested. The one lady where he's like, "Hey, I'm trying to get little Joey into daycare," and her face just like she got arrested. I think she's doing like 41 years or something like that. They were looking to hit her with 50, But yeah, she's doing 41 years. The Leering Center dude, like the manager or whatever that came out and was trying to defend it, he got arrested. And the funny thing is they both tried to flee. I think he tried to run away and like his sandal fell off and like he got like 10 feet maybe. She tried to like actually like flee the country and they've just, I think, I don't know if they got her at the airport or what, but yeah, like it's like, why didn't you flee like a month ago? What are you doing? It's just the IQ levels, you know. That's so funny.
The latest news out of the Minnesota fraud saga came Thursday as the Justice Department announced criminal charges against 15 people accused of stealing $90 million from the state's social services programs.
I thought it was more than that. Oh, the state.
DOJ's
the state.
Assistant Attorney General Colin McDonald said their work in Minnesota is just getting started. Take a listen.
The fraud here in Minnesota is shocking. Our cases today involve
That buzzing.
7 different state-managed Medicaid programs
It's not feedback. It's just RFK breathing.
that have been systematically pilfered by fraudsters who treated Minnesota-run programs as their personal piggy bank.
Is that Oz next to him?
Look, I've been clear that anyone who committed fraud should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. My biggest critiques in this whole process were we should expand it, look at also other states. There are Republican states that now are becoming part of the conversation. It's not a Democratic issue. Fraud since the pandemic was a countrywide issue that went really out of control with the lax laws, both federal and local, after the pandemic. And so I don't want to make this political when it doesn't need to be. I also don't want to make this personal to full communities of people. So saying Somalis are bad, like I started to hear the language from the president because of some fraud in Minnesota. And so those were my biggest critiques. But the issues here, when I read this article about people that were committing fraud, I mean, these are people that we're dealing with that need help with autism. These are people that we're dealing with that need help with Medicaid and dire services,
Don't
right? There are people that are
stop.
not getting services by you getting these services.
Yeah.
And so to me, that we have to crack down on fraud. We have to figure this out. But
Oh,
we also
okay.
have
I
to
thought
make
she was
sure
saying
that
the other. It's
people
like,
in
well,
these
but they're
states
not
like
getting their
Minnesota that are
services now. And the
they're-
funny thing, the funny thing about that was just like, was there a single parent that reached out and was like, "Hey, my kid can't go to daycare now because they got shut down"? What? Yeah.
the repercussions of bad
Oh, what up, Aria? Oh, thank you. These things. Oh, where did I get these? I don't know. Best Buy, something like that. They're
actors in their state.
LG, I think. Something like that. Yeah, LG.
That they still are getting what they need, right? When people are on government assistance when it comes down to medical care, it's usually because they're in dire times and they need some help. And so they fell on hard times, and our country supports people in that way. And so cutting off SNAP, like which has been some response to it, or cutting off the support or money that goes into Medicare, which has been some response to that the federal government has suggested. I don't know if that's the direct response to make sure that people who need the care get it. We have to find a balance between cutting out the fraud and cutting off the people who actually need it and making it harder for doctors to accept or knowing they have to go through a ton of paperwork so they won't even accept new Medicare or Medicare patients.
Well, it's just not the case.
Were there any patients though? Let's be real about this. Were there any patients for any of these fraud centers? Like, I thought they were just made up names for the most part.
That anytime you make a program available and people signed up for it, that all people are angels and all people do in fact need it. Human beings are quite smart. They can see opportunity and they know when to take advantage of systems that are not going to stop them from cashing certain checks. You know, I think a key difference between Republicans and
They got away with 90 million. Like, that seemed pretty easy.
Democrats is that when you look at the Minnesota Housing Stabilization Program, which was started in the summer of 2020, right after the George Floyd incident, and Minnesota started sort of rolling the ball on
from
all
the
sorts
US.
of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives to try and fix systemic racism in the state of Minnesota. This program grew from like a $6
old
million
United States of
program for
America.
housing stabilization for the homeless, the disabled, the mentally ill, to over $100 million over the course of just 4 years. And I think Democrats tend to look at a growth number like that and go, we met a need. There was a need in the community that was met by the budget that we allocated for this. Whereas a
It is all
Republican
about
goes,
optics.
that's a little strange. It's a little strange that in 5 years, all of a sudden, we have this many disabled, homeless, and mentally ill individuals who are in fact bilking this system. And that is now what we understand was happening. And they were shielded
Nice to meet you too.
from
Canada.
accountability over this
I've
by
been to
the
Victoria. It
Minnesota
was
State
beautiful.
Legislature in their different
to the,
investigations on
What's up in Victoria? It's like the Bush Art Gardens or something like that. Yeah, it's like gorgeous, like so many flowers. And I didn't appreciate it enough as a kid, but I would now.
this by just barking racist if you were skeptical of the need for these programs. And you're right, it's happening in Ohio too. Daily Wire report revealed systemic fraud happening in Ohio. I'd hate to see if they looked into Mississippi, any of the Carolinas, anywhere. This fraud is occurring nationwide, but it is going to be the most large and focused on the states where they make the most allowances and apologia for it. And that was Minnesota.
And the pendulum I see will swing. Like sometimes when you have those corrective programs for diversity, like you talked about, the pendulum swung too far in the point that you get from 6 million to 100 million, as you quoted, in 4 years. Perhaps there was a need to invest more in these programs, but not to the point where you can have all the fraudsters take advantage of programs like this. So I think it doesn't mean that programs don't need to be funded. It means that we need to find a balance. I want to play this soundbite talking about the autism scheme, and then we'll call back.
Make no mistake, today's charges are unprecedented. They include the highest loss amount ever charged in a Medicaid case in Minnesota and the largest autism fraud scheme ever charged by the Department of Justice.
In my ear.
Okay, so they talked about what you talked about. This is Minnesota's being focused on because it's the largest, the millions of dollars. It might go past 9 billion statewide, I saw. So I understand why people are upset. I get it. This is ridiculous. I mean, there's no other excuse for the fact that people have abused the system like this and we've allowed it to come to this way. So now I just want to look at solutions. We should prosecute people. We should look across the country. But should we point to all Democratic leadership across the country and say, California, Newsom, you're bad. We're out to get you. Like,
Seize their assets and deport them. That's all you really can do. You're not going to get the money back. So it's like, that's all you really can do. Just seize whatever they made and go ahead and get rid of them.
is that the solution, or do we just figure out how to work across the aisle and say this?
Because honestly, sending them to jail is probably better than sending them back to Somalia. So it's kind of a win-win for them. Because I would much rather stay in jail than go to Somalia. I'll be real.
happened, unfortunately, in unprecedented
So it's
rates.
like it's a foolproof plan. Like if you get caught doing all this laundering, instead of living a lavish life, you just go to jail, but you don't go back to where you came from. So I don't know. Yeah, it's actually maybe it's smarter than we thought.
After the pandemic, let's scale back. Let's get this under control.
I think it is important to note, and I'm glad that you're on board with fraud is bad, because we all want these programs to work for the people who need them. That is what they are for. And trust in our system is at such an all-time low. It's because of stuff like this. People just believe that these systems are not working as they're designed for American citizens who are in the most need of help. But I think it is.
You know, he's going to be thinking about that N in Leering Center for the rest of his life. He's like, God, just missed that N, man. If I could have just put that N in there, all of this would have not happened.
It's just disingenuous to suggest that Democrats were quick.
What
to
do I
take
do
this
besides
position.
streaming?
They
I
have
don't know. Stream.
been quite slow to adopt this position that there was a major problem. Republicans, maybe to their detriment, are too quick to believe that it's fraudulent and that that there are a bunch of scammers on the rolls. But the Biden administration, it was pointed out to me just the other day, they began doing indictments in 2022 in Minnesota. There were like 56 people put in jail for different scams coming out of the Minnesota welfare system that the Biden administration pursued, and they actually secured those indictments. But then Tim Walz ended up as the vice presidential candidate in 2024, which is just strange. So it's like, hey, we found fraudsters in the state, but we're not going to investigate, the politics of this and how high up this could go. That's the difference between Republicans and Democrats' interests. Republicans smell this on Tim Walz, and that he allowed this kind of thing to run rampant since he became governor in 2018.
And there's a lot of theories as to maybe that's why they picked Tim Walz, because it's like he's kind of like the head of the snake of all this fraud that was going on in Minnesota, and he was cool with it, obviously. So if you put that as the vice president, I was going to say principal, but yeah, put him as the vice president, then it's just like he will always look the other way, no matter what sort of whatever got uncovered. So because why Tim Walz? I mean, like I know you're trying to go for like that the casual middle-aged white guy who can, fix a tire type thing, but it's like it didn't work. None of it worked. We could see right through him. So yeah, I do think that theory it's got some merit to it.
And Tim Walz is a whole nother onion we had to peel back the layers on. But we're gonna switch gears really quick.
Yeah, Minnesota's been funny this year. All right, we'll do Kamala Harris. Oh,
The Democratic National Committee has finally released its long-awaited autopsy report on what went wrong for Kamala Harris in the 2024 election.
Who is this guy? They're just trying. Robbie's probably so tired. He's like, guys, I need a day off. Please find somebody just to fill in for a couple days. Because this is honestly the first guy I've seen actually, replace Robbie for a couple days for, I don't think ever. I don't think I've ever seen anybody fill in for Robbie.
DNC Chair Ken Martin said months ago that the report would be kept private, arguing that it would only serve as a distraction, but this resulted in outrage from Democrats who felt that the committee was not being transparent enough.
A good degree? Like in school?
Now, the 192-page report was written by Democratic strategist Paul Rivera, but in releasing it yesterday, Ken Martin made it clear that he does not endorse the report. He said in a statement, quote, "I could not in good faith put the DNC's stamp of approval on it." According to the report, or one reason for Harris' defeat is
her smile right there.
that her campaign failed to
I gotta see
not in good faith put the DNC's stamp of approval on it.
Shit-eating grin. All right, you're okay sometimes, Lindsay.
According to the report, or one reason for Harris' defeat is that her campaign failed to effectively remind voters of Trump's shortcomings during his first term as president. Another reason is that Harris underestimated the importance of reaching out to rural and male voters. And the report also argues that she struggled to clearly define herself as a candidate beyond simply being an alternative.
Well, there was nothing there. She didn't run really on anything other than, well, Donald Trump is bad, and I'm not Donald Trump. And she was always drunk too, so it was like you couldn't pick a worse candidate. I don't think she might have been the worst candidate I've ever seen.
Trump. So I was of the group of people that said, you don't need to release the playbook to actually just play a better game.
Like even Hillary had a much better chance than Kamala.
So just figure out what the strategy is. It's been almost 2 years that Trump has been president, and Democrats are still scrambling for a solidified, like, core 3-pillar message. And that's problematic to me when obviously the wind's beneath their wings with some of the things that Trump has failed to achieve that he promised on the campaign trail and other reasons. But that can't be the reason why you win an election. Saying Trump is bad, he's not even running again. So that cannot be the argument anymore. And it also just didn't work. It worked one time with Biden, and we were in like a interesting election cycle with COVID and everything. But with Kamala, it didn't work at all. Just saying Trump is going to end democracy. Okay, democracy is still here. We have a lot of nuances, but we're all alive.
Well, they say that about everything. Literally everything. It's doom and gloom. Like the world's going to end about every topic. And then it's just like, no. Like the adults in the room know that you're just full of shit. That's why, yeah, we're not evil. We're just a little bit ahead of you.
You said. And so that's not an argument. And so sharing this information and saying that Kamala didn't connect with males, well, duh. Everybody knew that. Trump gained in male voters. She didn't connect with black males. Okay. Obviously they weaned away and some of them went to the Republican Party, like Joe Rogan.
Remember the code switching? She was like talking about the collard greens in the bathtub, y'all. It's just like you're still code switching in 2026.
Helped take Trump over the finish line. I just think a lot of this frustrated me because you're I think putting it at the top of people's minds that maybe moved on from it as Kamala decides to move on and make her decision.
Oh, you're studying art right now? Okay. Are you in college or are you like about to graduate or something?
But you're reminding folks again that she didn't do a great job according to this report.
Are you telling me that Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker's White Men for Kamala live stream didn't take her over the finish line?
Remember the Kamala trucker hats? They were like camo, and that lasted like a week. They really tried to push that out, and it was just like not working. It's just such a joke.
This is just so shocking. And I think
In college, I would. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. If I were to go for any degree, if I were to go back and do it again, I would go for something specific, like engineering or something that when you come out of on the other side, it's actually going to benefit you. No social sciences, because I did philosophy and I don't regret it, but at the same time, it's like I could go be a teacher, but all the academies are kind of, I'm going to be honest, universities are kind of they're compromised at this point. It's a lot of, it's too much indoctrination. It's not enough education, and then they charge you a shit ton for it. So it's like, no, just, I would say trade school is probably the best way to go if you want to like work with your hands. Otherwise, I mean, you could still, even if you don't want to work with your hands, there's still a lot of stuff that you can do in trade school. It's just, yeah, the universities, it's starting to get to a point where we're seeing how much of a scam it is. It's like we go in, we get a 4-year degree that's usually bullshit, and now it's to the point where it's more harmful than good. It's actually corrupting kids. So now that you have to like take the kid out when they get out of college, you have to like get them to unlearn all the shit that they just learned, and then they owe their entire life to the college. So it's like, I don't know. Just be weary of college at this point. It's just be very, very selective. And yeah, I would say hard sciences or trade school or something that you can actually work with on the other side. Yeah, that's my best piece of advice. Just started my career at designing artwork, so I should draw you a free. Oh, is this a sales pitch? Get out of here. Are you trying to sell? Sad that actually the whole campaign was a disaster. It's weird why even Hillary didn't step in. Yeah, she probably just didn't even want to be like, my name's already tainted enough. I don't need, because let's be honest, Kamala was a train wreck, absolute train wreck. Like yeah, everything she touched kind of turned to shit. So it was one of those things where I probably would have distanced myself. And honestly, I think Obama even did when Kamala got the nod from everybody. I think Obama was like the last person to endorse her. He was kind of like trying to avoid it, I'm pretty sure. And then he finally was like, all right, well, I guess I got to do what I got to do.
To the male voters question, the one that I keep thinking about is towards the end of the cycle, they ran this ad about men for Kamala, and they just had a car mechanic and a farmer, some guy in overalls talking about
how... Oh, no. It was, oh man, wasn't it what's that guy's name from the ranch? Oh, help me out. Sam something. He's got the mustache. He did that. I'm pretty sure he narrated that commercial, and it was hilarious. It was like, be a man, vote for a woman.
It's okay to cry, and masculinity doesn't mean that you can't vote for a woman. But the problem with that ad,
okay, I hope that advice helps.
Saying that they think most male voters are like this, that most male voters are sitting around going, well, I can't vote for a woman. That would be unmanly. So then they make a message that says that. It's like an admission of guilt of their own problems within the party. I was reading over this document, and it's just redlined. I mean, what kind of report you put out to the public and you have red lines inside the report saying no evidence for this claim. We do not endorse this. That's insane.
Especially because they paid for it. So when you paid
They paid for
when you
this?
paid for the report to get like just to tear it up and say, oh, we're not standing behind this. Like, who funded this report happening? That's what I'm saying. Like, money went into happening to making it come to fruition, and you don't want to share it because you think the people that you paid did a bad job. It's kind of interesting. What stuck out to you the most to say that? Did you take away anything that's like, wow, this was really eye opening to me?
No, there was nothing eye opening here. I think the one note that I did look for was what the Democratic Party thought about the Kamala is for they them ad. The report indicates that they think that was a highly effective ad, and Kamala did not adjust her position. And it says that because the they them ad hit so hard, she did not adjust her message and say, actually, I don't disagree with the premise. She didn't reject the premise of the ad, and so it stuck, and it followed her all the way to Election Day. I think one of the more interesting things about this report is that I have not thought about Ken Martin since he took the job. What year was that when he began the job?
A couple of years.
I haven't thought of this person at all. And I say that because, I used to keep up with who the RNC chair is. Apparently now it's Joe Grutters. Never heard of this person.
Yeah, I don't know those
Reince
people.
Priebus was the last RNC chair that sort of mattered. And that's not about Reince Priebus being a good RNC chair. It's about the role of the parties and mattering at all. The DNC and the RNC, yes, they're good for fundraising, but this is not where the energy behind the party is coming from. And it's also not how the party is defined. The party is defined by AOC and Bernie Sanders. And I don't know, pick your favorite Democrat.
There's a couple bunch. Gavin Newsom, Kamala, she's still in the game.
Personality.
It's so bad. Quite the all-star team you got there. What about Butt Geek?
Personality and people are what are driving the party now. The cults of personality. We do not live in the era of parties picking winners and losers, anointing their candidates.
We
that's
got
not
Katie Porter. Real strength behind the DNC this year.
How politics works anymore. And you could say that the death of the party system is good. You could also say that the death of the party system has been quite bad and elevated a lot of radical politicians through the system who don't have any interest in moderating. So for me, that was the main takeaway here was the DNC has an autopsy report. Who cares?
Well, now that we all know what the problems
That's what I
were,
thought.
that the DNC does not stand by, but we know that.
Well, and that's kind of another thing too. It's like, okay, cool, you guys got an autopsy report. You're going to come out and maybe possibly admit like one or two of the flaws that happened. Are you going to change it all? Probably not. I can't see them changing. The progressives won't let them. The progressives are too hostile. If they try to change, then they will they won't vote Democrat. So, and the Democrats, the base, it's too desperate. So it's a stalemate.
Some random problems then. I saw that they said that the party kind of stagnated since Obama won in 2008. That's a long time to say that the party stagnated. And there's been a lot of changes since then. But at that point, there was a lot of momentum around President Obama's candidacy and then presidency. They said that they became overly dependent on this anti-Republican sentiment, which I thought was true because even as Democrats continued to try to prosecute the president inside and outside of Congress, I thought that it was too much, and that too much, like you thought too much political capital was being wasted with Epstein for Massey, and that's why he lost. I thought Democrats lost because they put too much political capital in bringing Trump down as opposed to replacing him with a Democrat. And so that also made the voters feel like they were forgotten. You hear a lot of times that this party that built
like
themselves.
What we were saying, that's all it was. It was just anti-Trump. That's the entire platform. They didn't have it. They weren't running on anything. I can't even think of a single policy they were trying to run on. I mean, even universal health care, that was like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Like, they don't even argue that sort of thing anymore. They're just, whatever Trump says, whatever he is just against Trump.
Alongside the working class had forgotten those people and somehow became the party of Harvard. Well, you stopped talking to the people that you represent and started going after these big ideas, a lot of social issues, and people who were like trying to figure out how to buy those same groceries that now might be higher because of the refrigerator costs for these grocery stores. They're upset because they're like, I don't care about all these topics that you're talking about. I can think about that when I have some leisure time to stop worried about my bills only. And so, Democrats have some soul searching to do. And it would really be remiss if they took this moment and didn't have a very defined strategy with all that they have basically being placed in their lap at this point.
Yeah, say what you will about the Democrats and their focus on cultural issues, but the only thing I hear their pundits talking about is the cost of groceries. So I think that's working out for them. Now, we have breaking news coming up. The Pentagon has released a new batch of UFO files.
Oh, we already watched that one. So breaking news. What's this? All right, we got one more. Then I gotta go get some food. Yeah, Fauci's back in the news. Old Fauci.
CIA analyst has offered testimony that Dr. Anthony Fauci deliberately misled medical experts, government investigators, and the broader public regarding the likelihood that COVID-19 came from a lab. That analyst, James Erdman III, was subpoenaed by Senator Rand Paul and testified before a Senate committee yesterday. He revealed that Fauci forced the government to change its initial assessment of COVID's origins from lab leak to neutral. Moreover, the CIA itself retaliated against analysts who found in favor of the lab leak theory. Here was part of Erdman's testimony.
My Facebook is still flagged because I just merely mentioned, I was like, hey, is it possible that this came from the lab? And then, yeah, I got a strike on my account and it's still there. Like, how many years later? Was that like 6 years ago? That is insane. 6 years ago.
Let's watch.
Intelligence community leaders and senior analysts downplayed the possibility that the COVID pandemic originated as a result of a lab incident. Motives are difficult to define given the scope of the Diggs review. Intentional or not, the IC's actions resulted in a cover-up, wasted resources, and a failure to properly inform policymakers.
Erdman went on to explain that effectively, CIA analysts were ready to find in favor of the lab leak theory of COVID's origins, but in the middle of the night, literally in the middle.
And you know what was funny too? When I was trying to bring up the lab leak theory, people were calling me racist for it. And I'm like, how is that more racist than some sort of dirty wet market? You got me on that one. I mean, everything in the past 10 years is trying to wrap your head around it. Just good luck. It's not going to work.
Middle of the night. Their assessment was rewritten. According to Erdman, that was due to pressure from Fauci and others. He continues.
Dr. Anthony Fauci's influence over the IC's COVID origin analysis and the witting and unwitting role some BSEG scientists and IC personnel played in the cover-up exposed why this issue is of deep concern. Failure to address the United States government's inability to differentiate between public health and biodefense and the oversight-resistant ecosystem of life science actors has been fertile ground for increasingly dangerous continental United States gain-of-function research, as well as similar research conducted in U.S.
I just hear his voice every time now. Gain of function.
government-supported labs abroad.
Now, the CIA is very, very unhappy that Erdman is testifying at all. The CIA says this issue is settled because they did eventually change their verdict and conclude that lab leak is the most likely explanation for COVID, albeit with low confidence.
We're supposed to be past this now, guys. We're supposed to shut up already.
In a statement, the CIA attacked Paul for daring to hold this hearing. But Paul said it's not good enough for the CIA to change its mind without doing anything to restore public trust.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, but nobody went to jail. There's no accountability. There was nothing behind it. Okay, yeah, we changed our policy. Let's move on now. On to the next thing. It's like, what? No. We want Fauci.
After all, the agency hasn't explained why it changed its mind, despite a bipartisan vote of Congress to declassify the government's COVID origins files. Here was Rand Paul.
I completely concur, and I would also like to respond to the CIA spokesman.
I'll like Rand Paul.
They say that we have already obtained closed-door testimony. Well, closed-door testimony doesn't provide oversight. Public testimony provides oversight. We have asked them for public testimony and for oversight. We would love to have the scientists the 6 or 7 scientists that were commissioned to look at this, we'd love to see their report. Why would we not be allowed to see their report? I can't even read that in private. But that should be public.
So in other words, a whistleblower says
that's pretty crazy. He can't even read that in private. And he's a government official. It's like, Yeah. You hiding something? Obviously.
Other analysts gathered intelligence that was suggestive of COVID having emerged from the lab
I love that him and Fauci just best buds.
in Wuhan. The smoking gun, of course, would be evidence that people who worked in the lab contracted COVID prior to the wet market outbreak. This is a key detail that actually some journalists, including independent Substack writer Michael Schellenberger and mainstream reporters of the Wall Street Journal, have confirmed themselves. But the public's never seen the intelligence that they base those reports on, and we should. But back when they had more control over the narrative, Fauci and his like tried to stop the CIA from coming out with that information. Instead, got them to say, you know what, who knows how it started. Then they minimized the influence of investigators and experts who disagreed with them. Today, the CIA, the FBI, the Energy Department all agree that lab leak is more likely than natural animal spillover. We deserve to know why and how they came to that conclusion, and we deserve accountability. Everyone who played a role in this cover-up ought to be prosecuted. So good on Senator Paul for getting the ball rolling.
I swear, man, Senator Paul is like one of the only people, he's like pretty much him. And I used to think Thomas Massey was like on the list too, being like the only principled people in politics. But I don't know with Massey. I don't know him enough, but at least with Rand Paul, I've seen him enough. I've seen enough of his career where I'm like, the dude is principled. Most of any action or policy he's going for, it's based on principles. And I do appreciate that because I don't know a single other politician is that clean.
Okay.
So there's some testimony for you,
I know,
Lindsay. There's
and
an
I was,
expert.
as you pulled up the story for your radar, I was like, this is Erdman's testimony is really important.
It
I
is.
think if there's some extreme cover up, then we should find out more. And this is obviously not a conviction of any sort. This is the start of a conversation at the very most. But we should have it. But we have to also go back and look at the last few years. Rand Paul and Dr. Fauci are arch enemies. I mean, they're literally on polar opposite sides of this discussion.
Sure.
Rand Paul is on the
Why can't they
let's
just
break up
get
the bureaucracy
along?
side, stop hiding information from us side. Dr. Fauci's on let's not
Senator
create
Poole.
public chaos, a global chaos side. Let's talk to virologists and several smart other people who work in the same space I work and are not intelligence officials. I mean, Dr. Fauci's not an intelligence official, and let's
Right.
gather information and share ideas.
But this guy talking is an intelligence official.
I know.
He's a CIA
And
analyst.
he's right. He's one person though. We have to have
Right.
a conversation. I think the bigger
He was like, I think he was the highest paid government official there for a while, Dr. Fauci.
question, because I'm happy to keep listening and get to the bottom of this.
Wild.
But like, why was the information about Wuhan suppressed? And when I try to fathom the reasons about why this might not have been just the go-to explanation, there's a couple things I came up with that
It's because
the
it makes Fauci look bad.
no, because the anti-China escalation was like, remember there was an entire Stop Asian Hate campaign. We can't just assume that it's one.
And what happened to that? They figured out where it was coming from, and it's like, oh crap, that's not part of the progressive narrative. We gotta shut that up.
When the CIA
But-
hasn't even
But that doesn't work at all because it's China either way.
no. But there was a whole the lab leak was like, oh, you guys are testing over there. You guys started this. You guys tried to kill us. Like there was a whole argument about what this.
No mainstream person has a credible. No one is ever saying they did it on purpose.
People were saying that in the beginning. There was a whole people were attacking Asians based off the response from COVID, and the president
Do you think
standing
the
there and saying,
explanation that the pandemic
No,
started? This is important though.
Okay.
Do you think the explanation that the pandemic started because Asian people like to eat bats is a less racist explanation?
Thank you.
No, I don't think.
I
Thank
think that's
you.
a more racist
Thank
explanation.
I don't
if
think-
we're getting into what makes Asian people look bad. The truth is the truth, so it doesn't matter to me. But
Yeah,
if I
exactly.
was picking one,
It's the Jon Stewart thing. Maybe it's the fucking chocolate factory down the street.
in order to minimize the amount of hate Asians were going to get, the lab leak is the better explanation. Because
it's
the
the
other one has to do
logical
with
one.
cultural practices unique to all of China, whereas the other one is just saying some people in a lab, not the cultural practices of China. People in a lab that were paid by us.
That's a good
This
point.
is the explanation that involves us. Okay.
He's talking about the exception versus the rule, and that's actually a good point too. I didn't even think about that when I was getting called racist.
It involves our policymakers, which is why that's the real reason they want to minimize it.
Listen, I'm happy to look into it. But again, that's one layer about why maybe they didn't want to just round up to that conclusion immediately in the middle of a geopolitical experience that nobody had ever had in their lifetime. I think there's also conspiracy theories. We were going down a list of conspiracy theories, and people wanted to accuse a variety of countries, specifically China, of doing this intentionally to try to end the world. I mean, there was so many conspiracy theories about why they were even testing for coronavirus in the first place.
I've heard a lot of
that
conspiracy theories that they did it on purpose is not
okay.
I mean,
And then-
they got afflicted too. You
But
can't.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like I don't know anybody who's saying that they did it on purpose. I guess maybe like the really far right-wing conspiracies, if you really want to get that far into it and being like, oh yeah, you know, it was to do that to collapse the economy of the US or something like that. But it's like, no, they did get hit too. So maybe it's population control. I've heard that one. That one sounds a little more plausible, but I don't know.
can't do that,
More-
right? It gets you to.
Part of it, population control, I do wonder if they were kind of gearing up for the AI revolution, because it's like we're not going to need this many workers once the AI comes around. So it's kind of like they gotta figure that part out somehow. So that seems plausible to me.
More importantly is that there was an overall attack on scientists and science in this time. And so I think Dr. Fauci's job was trying to make sure that scientific research was protected, and people were getting mad at him for consulting other virologists and other doctors that he'd worked with for decades prior to leading the COVID research. So he's not an intelligence
Right.
official.
I think he is trying to defend. I think he's trying to protect research. I think the research he's trying to protect should not be done, least of all in unsafe conditions. And this pandemic pointed back to that research, and so he covered it up and encouraged.
And he was supposed to cut that shit out under Obama. Obama told him to stop. And then somehow he found a loophole to keep gain of function research going. He did it through a third party, through EcoHealth Alliance. So he third partied that shit. So he didn't have, my hands are clean. I'm not touching it. Somebody else is doing it, but yeah. I can't believe it's been 6 years. It's weird.
But
Alternative.
that's not proven in
explanations.
Erdman's testimony, and I also think public chaos
Isn't that
is a
just the
factor.
most
I mean,
simple. I'm not one to believe in conspiracy theories. We argue about aliens and Havana Syndrome and all other things. Epstein, right? Where I take the Occam's razor. But in this case, it looks to me like the Occam's razor is
yes,
that.
I agree.
It came from a lab.
That's
is
what
now
I said.
The conclusion of the CIA. The CIA now admits.
what
that
did
is
your
the most
statement say?
likely.
Albeit not extremely confident, right?
We don't know for sure.
Right, we don't
But that's
know.
what they think is more
so
likely.
everything is still on the table in the same way that it was when Dr. Fauci was there. So why does this man need to go to jail? Because of a wrong assessment? Is that what you're saying? Like, that's what
trying
I'm
to
trying.
hide his
But
culpability.
we have not
information.
proven that, and so we can
I'm
open
not
up the
saying
door and have the conversation.
We have not proven it,
Right.
Then let's get him to tell the truth and figure it out.
but it is actually
It's because he lied to Congress. That's partly why we want him.
the simplest and most logical explanation for the fact pattern
So
we have.
was the CIA changing its perspective based on other doctors outside of Fauci, or is Fauci just that much of a strong arm that he got the entire CIA to change its mind? Like, let's see the proof about that. If Rand Paul wants to, and I like to declassify files,
Yeah.
so let's go ahead. If he wants to declassify this and we see that Fauci was not this strong arm that you want him to be, that needs to go to jail, then what? What do we do with this
But
conversation?
he's the one for disclosure, because if you listen there, what he's saying is the CIA opposed this hearing. They said, we changed our assessment, so what's the point of this? And Rand Paul says, and I agree with him, okay, but we don't know why you changed your assessment. Was the assessment, as this man says, the assessment was lab leak and you changed it to neutral, and then you changed it again to lab leak. How did you make any of these decisions? You won't tell us publicly. The CIA says, well, behind closed doors, we've already settled this. And Rand says,
Yeah, and that's a problem.
but the people are supposed to know
Yeah.
how you reach these conclusions. I mean, like, I would like to know if they have intelligence that the first COVID patients predate the wet market or from the lab itself, that's a smoking gun, that it was the lab. So if they have
Thank you, Robbie.
that
Yeah.
information,
Yeah.
frankly, they should be able to conclude with high confidence that that's where it came
Yeah.
from. Or maybe it's something else.
And it's pretty simple, but they keep trying to be like hush hush about it, and it's like there's a reason for that, and we need to figure out why. And it's like, no, we need to move on. We don't want to move on. We need to figure out what the hell happened here.
don't know. I would like to know, and I think the public has a right to know. And Congress
they do.
voted to declassify it, and Biden signed it. and they still won't do it.
So
It's kind of one of those things. It's like we're waiting for the presentation. Just be like, okay, so this is what happened. But you guys are like, hey, yeah, we looked at a few things. We fixed some policies, and we're gonna try to figure things out from moving forward. You know, so that means nothing. It gives us nothing.
The whole community and the federal government's relationship is not the same thing as, like, let's say, the way the Supreme Court looks at something. So there's no definitive answers here on how the verdict comes down. Like, the medical community consults a
Well, that wouldn't work. Well, that wouldn't make too much sense because those who were most affected were people who don't work anyways. Work eligible people weren't affected. Yeah, maybe a bioweapon in testing and it got out. It's kind of what I was thinking. I think most likely case, my gut's just telling me that they were really trying to work on some sort of bioweapon or they were working on research and then they fucked up. And then they got caught and it's like, oh, we weren't supposed to be doing this type of research. So, and then from there, I don't know. I'm not sure why it's one big CIA coordination. That's a pretty good question at that point.
variety of top level
I don't want to say Fauci is that powerful unless it goes deeper than Fauci, unless there actually is something to this.
experts to get to some sort of conclusion. And the same thing when we talked about like the Tylenol or the autism links, like there's always conversations and disagreements about what may be the root causes of things, which is why they don't quickly release information that could be wrong.
I just want to know what they know. I want to know what
that's
led
fine,
them
but
to
I don't
their
want
conclusion.
Fauci in jail because he maybe got it wrong, perhaps like RFK Jr. and then might have gotten it wrong about Tylenol. I would not like to see them in jail either. I just don't want people to
Wait,
jump
but
into
did he?
conclusions, which is why it's important
If he
to not do that.
I love that
suppressed-
that just got like swept under the rug. We don't even hear about that anymore. Like, what happened with the Tylenol thing? People getting retarded.
Has a report saying that the research
There's
he
no proof
supported
of
was the
that.
cause
There's
of the
no proof of
pandemic, and he
that.
should go to jail.
There's
I remember seeing some videos of girls online being like, because they were just like, fuck Trump. So there's just like all this rebellion in them. They went and they just started like chewing down a bunch of Tylenol when they're pregnant. It's like, what are you doing? This level of spite is just unbelievable.
no proof of that at this moment.
I guess except for the testimony of this man before it's a sworn statements to Congress. Is that proof? A little bit. We're getting there in my mind, but
All right, Chinese President Xi Jinping issuing a warning to Trump about his visit to Beijing. We're going to be right back. Talking about
Oh
that.
man, oh man, oh man. All right, that's enough news for the morning. I'm gonna go get something to eat, and I will be back on to do some body cams, and I think I got time for that Sean Ryan one too. So yeah, I'm gonna get to that. I'll probably do the Sean Ryan one first, most likely.